I'm so excited.
All right, welcome back to Living Magic. I'm Catherine Middlebrooks. This is Kyla Jenkinson, and with us today we have Whitney Lamb, who is a very magical angel channeler and astrologer, who we have both worked with personally, and we're so excited to have here. So thank you so much, Whitney, for joining us today.
Oh, I'm excited too. It should be fun. I'm ready.
Whitney, you have so many cool skills that I think not a giant plethora of people access in the way that you do. So I'm excited for you to tell us a little bit about what you identify as your magic being. And
Okay.
I just wanted to tell a little story because I went about the first time I saw you. And at that time, we had spaces near each other. So you were almost two office doors down from me. And I'd been to clairvoyance before, so I wasn't nervous about it, but I kind of didn't like the idea of somebody telling me about my future. Like, I don't want to know too much, like I don't want to be too informed about my life. I want it to flow. So I was a little nervous about that. And then I remember you talked about in the beginning, as you were kind of explaining how you do what you do, free will, and that's one of the gifts that we get as humans is that we have been given free will. So you can, I think how you put it was, Kyla, you can gather all this information, but you have the will, the free will to choose a different path or to choose differently from. This is just like if you continued on this path now with these ideas and this way of thinking, this is how it might unfold or whatever.
Yeah.
But I liked that permission that no, don't take all of this so to heart that it's freaking you out. Is how I interpreted that. So it just like calmed me down a little bit.
Oh,
All
good.
right, I have free will. I'm a human. I have free will. I do what I want.
Of choice. Yeah.
I have choice. I love
Mhm.
having choice. So
Yeah.
anyway, I just thought maybe you could introduce. I can't even remember how you did it to me in that session, but just you explained you like calm people with, here's what I do. So do you want to do that for us?
Sure. I mean, it's changed and morphed over the years. I've been doing
I
this, gosh, how
believe.
long?
Yeah.
It's been probably 15 years if I add it all up. It's been a while. And of course, I've grown and evolved as, a psychic and things. And so a lot has changed for me. But yeah, the free will part is important to know. We have, we create our blueprint in some regard before we come into the human existence. We mark out things that we want our soul to experience. There's certain points, maybe they're hot spots on our path of destiny. These are things that we wanted to set up for ourselves so that we have to grow in some way. So not all of it's free will in some regard. In between all those spots is free will, where you can go create things and experience things. But one way or the other, your angel friends are going to get you right on that point that you need to experience because that's part of your fate. It's how you decided you wanted to grow and evolve in this life. So some things you cannot avoid. How you handle and react to that is a choice, right? That's a choice. How you step into it and what you do with it is a choice. But sometimes there's things that you just cannot avoid. And so that's maybe something to understand about free will too, that sometimes fate and destiny does have a hand in your life. And that's where astrology comes in too, which is really fascinating to see how the planets are moving around your chart and what they're activating in your chart and what they're presenting to you as far as opportunities are concerned. That's why I've been saying astrology for so long, because it all ties into everything, into the idea of our blueprint.
I will say we did a session in, I think, August, and you were telling me about something that was going to happen in December, and I sort of forgot about it. And then it happened come December.
Oh,
And I went
interesting.
back to the reading and I was like, oh, this relaxes me so much because it was like, you were like, there's probably going to be like one last hurrah on this in December. So don't freak out when it happens. And here it is again. And then it happened and I could listen back and it was like, okay, you're still moving in the right direction. You're still on the right path in this area. And that just in and of itself was so very just it calmed my system down because rather than it being like, oh my God, we're in this place again, it's like, okay, no, you're still just working through this issue, but you're almost to the other side of it. So stay calm. And I think that is one of the biggest gifts that you also give to people is this it's all in the plan. It's all
Yeah.
for your benefit and it's all for your highest good. and you can then sort of settle into the bumps that come along the way because there's always going to be bumps, right?
Yeah. Oh, there's always going to be some bump and there's always going to be some goodness. There's
Of
always
course.
something that comes along and balances everything out. Yeah, sometimes I don't even know why the angels are telling me to tell people something. I don't get to see everything, but they're like, tell her this, da 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 da, tell her to be calm. I'm like, okay. So I give that to you, hoping that that will start to make sense in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, that's kind of the free will, and I'm glad that was helpful for you in December. Amen. You're still alive and walking. This is great.
We're still here. We
I'm
are still
still here.
here.
Yeah.
Hey, Kyla, we have not entered the portal. Should we enter the?
Oh, Whitney, do you have the gift that I left on your no, it's time to enter the vortex.
We're
Are you
entering the
ready?
vortex. Okay. Well, I put
Yep,
these on, and what happens?
you'll see.
Life
Okay.
changes.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Oh, do I have to turn and then okay? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Isn't it so much more fun
This is
to
very
be?
snazzy. Everything's
Yeah,
green. I like it.
it might be a little intense. So when you're ready to take them off, we can leave the vortex. But however long you want to wear them, we can wear them. Okay.
Okay, fantastic.
Whitney's sporting a very green pair of sparkly glasses.
These are super green, and I do feel like a fly.
Yeah.
Kyla can handle any pair of sunglasses. They always look good on her, and I tend to always look like a bug. So thank you for joining me in my bugness.
Absolutely.
Let's get in the joyride. Okay, I
Yeah.
really am curious about how you started to understand and hear and tap into these gifts where you hear the angels. I want to know what that story is that opened the door to that.
Yeah, I'll start off with kind of a depressing part of this story. When I was, sorry, I feel like my hair is just kind of tucked in weird. When I was around 13 is when I finally healed it. 12, I was anorexic and I was put into a hospital in Albuquerque, an inpatient hospital program. Thank God. I'm glad my parents did that for me. I was actually relieved when they said they were doing it. I was so flippin' tired. I was 82 pounds. I was on my way out the door. So, but in that, we had this one nurse that I really loved. Her name was Nancy, I believe, if I can remember correctly. But she did guided meditations with us and took us inward. And I experienced the craziest things doing that. And I got a lot of help and I got a lot of assistance. And I had a lot of beings come in and tell me things and help me through things. So that was kind of a door opener, even though I didn't know really what it was. And I carried it with me. And I remember the woman that I met that helped me out the most. And throughout my life and even into my later teens, I remember her telling me things. And then I moved to Las Vegas, Nevada to go to college at UNLV. That's fun. And I I was around the age of 19. There was my sister. We have separate moms. We have the same dad, separate moms. And we were at her mother's house. And she had this book on the table that one of her friends, coworkers had given her to read. And I saw it and I asked Marcia is her name. I said, can I read this book? And she goes, sure. So I stayed up. It was a little thin book. It wasn't very thick. And I read it. I stayed up all night reading this book. And when I went to sleep and I finally woke up in the morning, I felt completely different. It was the weirdest experience. I just knew that I crossed some kind of threshold. I was never going to be the same human again. I understood that I'm responsible for everything. And when you finally realize you're responsible for everything, your whole entire mentality changes because you're just awake to your actions and reactions to things in life. And then shortly thereafter, I was with my sister again. We hung out a lot, just like you and your sister. And we were at this mailbox place dropping off some stuff. And I happened to look across the way, and there was this building that had this big billboard that said Psychic Eye Bookstore. And I beelined across that parking lot. And when I opened the doors to the store, I was like, oh my God, I'm home. And I didn't even know what was really going on in this store. It just felt right. I just liked it. And it was a metaphysical bookstore. It had everything under the sun you could possibly want to learn about anything spiritual, anything metaphysical, all the things, occult, tarot, astrology, all this stuff. And I asked if they were hiring, and they said yes. So I filled out an application. And I was bummed because I didn't get a call for about 2 weeks. And I really wanted that job. It felt perfect for me. I finally got a call. And the manager said, I actually threw your application in the trash can and we hired somebody else, but he never showed up. So I had to get out in the trash can and dig for your application. And so I ended up working there. And I immediately beeline to the angel section. I don't know if they were choosing me and leading me towards that, or I was choosing them. Maybe it's both, but that's the section I went to. And I also got very interested in astrology at that time too. And I studied other things, of course. I met my first psychic teacher there. They moved me to a different store location. There's about 3 stores there in Vegas. And I moved to a different store location. And that's where I met Angie. and Angie was a psychic. They had psychics in the back. They had these little cubby rooms where psychics would do readings for people in the store. And she was a reader in that store. And she was fascinating, so fascinating to me. And she taught me some things. And I remember her one day looking at me, telling me, "You're way more psychic than I am." And I laughed at her because I thought she was just batshit crazy. I'm like, there's no way I can do what you do. Like, this is intense. But I always had it in the back of my mind with that. And I learned how to read cards. That's how I started, was learning how to read cards. And some people would come up to me in the store. I was a store clerk, and they would come up to me and want me to read their cards after hours. People just randomly want me to read for them. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but sure, I'll do that. So that was kind of interesting how that kind of opened up. And so that was a big kind of entry point for me into everything. And what's really fascinating when you look at astrology, if you don't mind me talking about astrology for just a second, at around 19 is when we all have our nodal returns coming in. And these are destiny points for us. They open up something for us. So if you want to look back at your life at around probably 18 to 19, maybe even a little bit into 20, whatever opened up for you, if you had a glimmer of something or you got interested in something or your life just did a that's nodal returns starting to happen. And they happen around every 19 years. We have a nodal reversal, nodal returns happen. And at that time, too, I had what's called a loosing of the bond. And loosing of the bonds in astrology are points where your soul unravels. There's parts of you and that unravel so you can open up to a new identity, a new focus, a new aspect of your soul that needs to be experienced. And that happened to me too at that time. It happened actually around 18, but it lasts for about 2 years for me. So when I look at the astrology of everything, I'm like, that's fascinating. That happened around that time too. So that's why I love astrology, because it shows you these things. But that was my entry point into all of it.
Fascinating. Okay, cool. I did not know that story. I have to leave the vortex.
I know
You
it's too
Mine
can.
are
much.
too dark.
Is
Mine
it
are
too
It's too
much?
much.
Okay.
Go ahead. Wow. Okay. I want to know a little bit about. So when I met you, when I first met you, you were doing readings, but you were also still working at the prison.
At the
Remember that?
courthouse.
Courthouse. Oh, why did I
Yeah.
think it was a prison?
I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe unbeknownst to me.
Oh, but I thought you were dealing with prisoners at the courthouse.
Oh, there's
No.
people go to jail there. I mean, they have to get
Jail,
sentenced
not prison,
sometimes.
jail.
They get
Prison,
sentenced.
jail, sentence. Okay. Do you
Yeah.
have anything fun like that transition of trusting, like this job here is done, and I'm going to move into fully doing this job?
Oh, there's a whole bunch before all that. My life's a
Okay.
long and windy story, Kyla. We could be here for 2 hours talking about all the things.
Well,
That
tell me
was it.
what you want to have come out of that windy story path, because
Yeah.
I'll be sitting here fascinated the whole time. So just you pick your
I,
story.
I hate talking about myself, but here we go. Um, That was around 2008 was a big pivotal time for a lot of people because that's when Pluto went into Capricorn for about 16 years. And for me, it opposed my sun in my natal chart. So this whole thing happened. And what happened during that time for me in 2008 is I had a dream about Hawaii. And so I always listen to my dreams. My dreams have been my point of change and shifts because they just show me things and I go do the things. I don't question it when it comes to my dreams. Very prophetic type stuff happens. So I had a dream about Hawaii and I just kept it in the background. And then around October of that year, a friend called me and said, "Hey, I think you should hop in the car with my girlfriend and I. We're driving down to San Diego for a wedding and you should go to Hawaii and you should stay with Aaron. Here's his number. He's got properties you can rent." So I called Aaron. He's like, "Yeah, I'll give you a little bungalow for $500 a month." And I said, "Cool." So I quit my job. I bought a one-way ticket to Hawaii. I hopped in a car with my friends and I drove my happy ass down to San Diego and I flew to Hawaii. And I literally was there because I had a one-way ticket. I stayed for probably a month, maybe a little bit after a month. And that was very life-changing for me, that whole experience. Hawaii wasn't rainbows and unicorns for me. I wanted to swim in the Pacific Ocean and get off that island as fast as possible when I got there because it shifted me around so much. And what it had me let go of was a bunch of fear. I had a whole bunch of fear responses inside myself that needed to be released. So after that time, I came back to the States at some point and I ran into another psychic. And she was instrumental to me too, because she showed me things and I learned things from her and things opened up for me from her perspective and the way that she did things. So that was great for me. And I went back and worked for the chiropractor. I was working for a chiropractor when I quit to go to Hawaii. And he let me come back and work for him for a little bit. And that didn't feel right. So I was jobless for a long time. And then I found the job at the courts. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That sounds like something in Durango that could be entertaining because I hate being bored and I like to learn things. And so it was right at the time when we're having this massive financial crisis. Do you remember that time, 2008, 9, 10? It was really hard in the world financially. So they had like a job, they weren't really a job freeze in some regard, but they were still interviewing so that when things opened up, they'd bring the people in that they liked. So I had an interview, and I remember I sent them a thank you card. And when I opened my door, there was a bird standing on my balcony, and it followed me all the way down to the mailbox. And it was chirping and swimming around me and da da da. And I thought, that's a good omen. So I ended up getting the job. And I
Mm.
worked as a deputy clerk in the courthouse. And so I had to learn all kinds of things, but I did mainly the divorces, is what I did. So I had all the divorce cases and I'd file the paperwork and then run it up to the judge and they would do what they need to do with it. So that was my job there. I worked for that for a couple of years and then I got a job in probation. So I did the useful public service and probation for a while. And that's where things got really interesting because I had my own office with a door. And so I had really interesting people come in, and angels would sometimes say, just get up and close the door and talk to them. And fascinating people would come through. I didn't judge anybody because everyone has a story to tell. And so some people were really interested in all the things because I had crystals and shit all over my office. I didn't care. So we'd have very interesting conversations. There was one guy who was a Satanist that came in. And that was a fascinating conversation with him. It was all about energy. It was all about, using different forces of the same energy and what you do with that. And so that type of conversations I'd have with people. And so I learned how to use my energy in different ways too, and how to calm people down, how to make it peaceful for people. So it was a real good use and a non-judgment. And sometimes I did feel like an asshole after I left because I did have some judgment that day on a lot of people because there's interesting people out there too. They're just making dumb choices for their lives, right? And then I learned how to work my energy in different ways. And then I learned how to help a few people out. So that was good. But it was a good training ground for me. I was there for about 5 years.
You have the benefit of working with so many people. Do you see that there is something that comes up for people and they just keep doing the same thing, or they run away from the experiences that actually are there to help them grow?
All the time.
Yeah. But is it like something that people can shift easily?
Yeah. It's called balls.
It's called balls.
It's called
Did you mean,
balls.
did you mean
It's
ovaries?
it's like sitting in the fire, allowing yourself to sit in the fire. A lot of people don't like to sit in the fire. They don't like change. They don't like transformation. Some people would rather choose to sit in their own pain and suffering. But you know that saying, if once you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you'll change, you'll do something about it. And some people need to get to that point where they've exhausted all rowboat possibilities that the universe has sent to them. And finally, they're stuck in jail, right? And then they're like, well, I guess this is the last damn rowboat, right? And hopefully they learn a lesson with that. For me, I think on a level, I just knew probably because of the dream I had and probably because of how everything happened for me that I was supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lesson I had to learn, and I knew it wasn't done yet because I hadn't. Once you're in the fire, you have to wait until you can get through it to know it's over. And that's just an internal feeling, it's an internal process that happens with that. Speaking just from my own experience, I guess.
No, I like
Yeah.
that visual a lot, but like you really don't know that you're through it until you're through it.
Yeah, and
Too. Yeah.
sometimes, and that's why I really advise people to start working with their angels because the angels can tell you, they'll be like, you've got 2 weeks of this, hang tight, but this is what you need to do. And so you can get information that makes the ride just a little bit easier in some regard.
I
Hmm.
have a question that will be helpful about, you said, and you always tell people work with your angels.
Yeah.
Work with you. So explain what you mean when you say work with your angels.
You ask them to be with you and to help you understand things in your life. I always, when I'm doing something like that, I sit in prayer. It's basic prayer is what I do. So I take it seriously. I light a candle, I get quiet inside myself, and I speak from my heart. And I let them know that whatever they need me to do, I'll do it. I'm ready. Let's do this thing. I don't want to be here anymore. What do I need to do to get out of this? And so I listen to the guidance, I listen to my dreams, I listen to where I'm led, I watch fate start to open up around me, I start to pay attention to things, I move, I start to move in the directions. And sometimes that's all very intuitive. You get hits about things, you get whiffs of things, and you go do it, or somebody comes on your path that's helpful. Or somebody goes, I see this therapist, you should go talk to them. Okay, I go. Or go see the, okay, I go. And so I just learned to listen, and so you don't have to know what the angels are per se. They know themselves. They know what they're doing for you. You don't have to get all heady with it and have a name and have a thing. You know, you don't. It's just an understanding that they are around you and they're here to help you with things. And if you can just open up that doorway of communication and just permission that you're giving them to be in your life, that's a first thing to do, truly. That's how I started. It was one book I read about angels, and I did all the exercises in that book. And it was the coolest, funnest experience I've ever had. And I started asking them for signs that they were around me. I had weird things happen every day with the angels. So that's how I started the whole connection with them, honestly. It was just
What's
What
a
was
little,
that book?
yeah, what's the
um,
book?
it's called Messengers of Light. It's this little book,
Cool. I'll put that in the
Messengers of Light.
show
It's by
notes.
Terry Lynn Taylor.
Oh, cool. Add that to the show notes for
I
sure.
will, I will.
Yeah.
I also love in that too, the way you describe it too. It's like, yes, you're listening, but you're also moving through the world. Because I always think that that is also another key to this is like for the universe and for your angels to be able to actually put people on your path, you have to leave your house. You have to be like going out into the world.
Yeah.
It's not all just sitting, turning internally. It is also interacting in this crazy world we live in.
It is. Although I did a lot of healing work by just doing a lot of internal work with them too. So, um, they're really fascinating how they'll work with you if you allow them. I have so many stories I could share with all that. I have a big one. You want me to share a story with you?
Please.
This is kind of morbid, but I'll give it to you. And other people have heard this story before from me too, because it was such a big pivotal thing. I was 21 and I was living in Oregon and I was in this massive existential funk. And my life had been pretty difficult. A lot of challenges were happening for me from like the age of 13 with eating disorders and just a whole bunch of other crap I don't need to talk about. And 21, I was done. I was done. I was done with this earth plane. I was done with this human existence. It was too much. I wanted to get out of here. But I didn't want to take my own life. It was something I didn't want to do because I didn't want to repeat the damn thing. So I was like, can you just take me out? I'm here to do it, car wreck, whatever you need to do, get creative. I'm ready. So that's the morbid part of it. But there was one day, it was a beautiful day in Oregon, actually sunshine, no rain. And I was up with my cousin. We were on this trail, I think it was called Eagles Creek or something like that, if I can remember. But we were really high up in this big valley down below and a little ledge that we were walking along. And because we were kind of up to the top of the mountain, the water was running off and hitting the trail in half. So you could walk along the outer ledge or you could walk, alongside the mountain. So my cousin goes ahead of me and cruises by, and I'm cruising and I'm really enjoying my life in this moment in time. And my feet slip out from underneath me, and I'm literally hanging on this ledge. And people talk about that idea that the whole world stops. The whole world stopped, not joking. Like time froze in that moment. And this voice, it was so loud. It was not in me, it was outside of me, said, Whitney, are you sure you want to die?
I have
And I
chills.
remember I
I've
paused.
got so many chills.
So many chills. Me too.
So did I. And I remember saying, no, no, I don't. And right then it was when my cousin was pulling me, getting me back up on top of the cliff there. But that was a huge moment of awakening for me that I was like, I have got to straighten up my attitude because obviously I want to stay here. And so that's when I really started to have to do some inner work and get clear in myself. And it took a while. It wasn't an easy thing. I had a lot to unpack and unload, but that was a big story with my angel friends. And I'm like, one of the things that happened with that is, holy crap, they heard my request. I think that was the biggest thing for me is like, okay, this is real.
We're going to be
But
talking more now that I know you're talking.
yeah.
I don't have a question as much as a statement. I feel like I refer you to a lot of people who are usually at a point in their life where they are struggling with something, whatever it is, the loss of someone, a tough decision to make. Um, because, well, A, I think you're brilliant, and you have a way of. I too have done um, several different psychics, and what I like about how you work is you're very positive. You can spin it into positive. Like you can be like, here are some maybe challenges, but also like you're good at putting like let's just wrap this in some golden light. And I like that
Yeah. Yeah.
because it makes it easier to life when you know that there's some golden light wrapped around whatever it is you're doing. But anyway, what I was going to say was it's also for me, it's better than therapy
Mm.
because not that therapy can't be great, but I just feel like in therapy, you have to really get your story out and then you have to label all the stuff. And you, when I do a session with you or another psychic, even, it's just like here, let's get to the grit of it. Here's the grit.
Yeah.
Here's what you need. I don't need to hear your story. I already know your story because you're tapping in, right? To
Yeah, yeah.
the your angels, you're downloading the information and you're communicating it to the person that I'm like, yes, I want to know what it is I need to know. And um, I did have a friend one time that said to me, why do you need that? Like it's already in you.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, yeah, it is. And sometimes we just need a little push or a little validation that
Yeah.
what we're thinking is the right direct. Like it gets sticky on Earth in this human suit. So it's nice to have someone that's looking out for us say, hey, did you try this? Did you think about this angle? You need to let go of that, yada, yada. Um, like the session that I did with you last week, I think was when you were like, your angels are saying you're not going to like hearing this, but you need to find your light, like you need to go into yourself. That was, what was the term was different than that, but essentially it was like,
Find your
oh,
core.
find your what
Find your core.
find your core, like find your flame, get quiet.
Still point.
Thank
Still
you,
point.
still point. I was
That's a
like,
good
it's a
word.
word, it's a word.
I
Yeah.
wasn't
Good
even
Find
word.
there,
your
but she
still
told me
point.
all about it.
I told you, and you are my
Good
memory,
word. Still point.
so
I am
Yeah.
your
thank you.
memory. Exactly.
Thank you for coming in right at the right time. Anyways, so I just wanted to, like, it's such important work, I feel like, that you do, and I do feel like you continue to improve because you're doing it all the time, but also you've trained and learned new things and all that stuff. But now I'm like, okay, I already know you got the answers. So like you don't have to prove yourself to me anymore. Let's tap in. Tap into the angels. Let's download the information.
Well,
Yeah.
it's just such a zoomed out perspective too, rather than being like in the muck of it. You get this big view of why you're doing this at this moment in your life. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, you start to see the flow and the ebb of things and the patterns you've also woven. The thing that's been interesting to watch lately with the angels is they've been very loud about this with people. I hope you don't mind me talking about just going off on a
No,
tangent.
this is perfect.
Um, for a lot of people, what they've been doing, this might be helpful for listeners too. We weave our own webs. So if you think about it, we have our blueprint web around us of light, the matrix, what do you want to call it, our own like data board. And then we have webs that we create through our mind and our emotions and the things, and we get stuck in that web. It's not even the web we're supposed to be working in. If we create it, we can dismantle it. And that's what people really need to understand. That's where the power sits in us to go, let me sit inside myself and look at the web that I've created around here. Okay, so there's that thought pattern I've been thinking for 10 years. That's not helpful. And look what it created over there. That's not helpful either. So I got to let that go and redo this. And we start
Mm.
to do that work and we come back to our true matrix. We start to come back to our soul song, our harmonics. We're here on our path again. But that other web that we weave can really block and muffle our sound. So the universe has a hard time helping us out, has a hard time giving us answers. We're blocked from it in some way. And a lot of people will say, like, I just feel like I can't feel anything. I'm like, because you're in a web of crazy. You need to let go of, right? You need to start healing it. And so that's kind of interesting for people to see that perspective in some regard. And angels have been really liking working with that with people for a while. So I just want to spit it out loud.
Are there
Listen.
tools that they're referring people to help dismantle that web?
Just sitting inside yourself. Tools
It's
to
still point.
dismantle it though. I got your question. Just watching oneself and one's triggers and one's reactions for a while, looking at the people, places, things in their life that aren't bringing them happiness anymore, that feel like a chore, that feel like a burden, that feel like a responsibility, like a big weight that they're not supposed to be holding. And so oftentimes it's those things, and having the courage to say goodbye to it, or how you're stepping into it in a different way, is kind of the tools to be using with some of that. And just being openly honest with yourself. A lot of people don't like to be honest with themselves. It's embarrassing, it's shameful, there's guilt around some things. And so it's really hard for people to just sit inside themselves and own the fact that they have done this and they've said that and they've created this. But if you can get past that, then you can start to shift everything.
Yeah. I know 2025 is supposed to be pretty big astrologically too.
Yeah,
Are there themes that are coming up with the angels about navigating 2025?
that's a big question. We have a destructive flow that's starting to come in. Now, destruction doesn't mean sometimes not massive upheaval. What can destruction can do, and how I've been noticing it weave its way in people's lives, is people are getting turned around to release. They're looking at their own destruction in their own lives. They're looking about how they're destroying their own selves in some regard, how they're not standing in their power, how they're not standing in the light, standing in their truth. And so that's kind of how destructive patterns can work on individual levels in people's lives. How it can also work in this outer life is we're seeing a whole bunch of things come open. A whole bunch of things come open. And this lasts up until March. But this is an energy that has nothing to do with astrology, but it's weaving through right now. And they showed that to me in October. And they showed me in November, it's when it's going to kind of come out. And this is a small flow of destruction. We have bigger things happening right now. We're having all this kind of destructive energy happening right now because the collective consciousness is not upright. It's ass backwards. So it's creating it, right? And right now in this world, 2025 is hopefully to bring in some more balance. It's tricky. It's a fine edge, bringing in some balance, turning up the volume in a different spectrum so that that volume can come in. So for the most part with the angels and people, what we're meant to be doing is finding peace within ourselves because that turns the scales a little bit, right?
Mm.
If we're out of the chaos, then we turn the scales in a different direction. It's helpful. We
Mhm.
all have a weave in the web, you know, in the bitter fabric of things. We have a fabric there. It weaves through everything, or like a what do you want? Like a thread. That's the word I'm
Mhm.
looking for, right? And so if we do our part, we change the whole thing, change the whole structure. And so it's people awakening, really, truly what's happening in 2025. And these
Yeah.
energies are happening. I mean, they're going to be happening for years and years and years. They're just starting now to change signs. And so I don't know if you want me to get into the astrology about planets or changing signs or things like that, but it's just we're starting. What's happening also is that all these planets are going to move into these signs for the year, and then they're going to go retrograde back into the signs from which they came from. So we're going to have some repetitive patterns. We're going to have some things that we're going to redo and have to relook at and recalibrate, things like that. Probably 2026 is when things are going to really go in a whole different way. But this is kind of like when I look at 2025 energetically, it just feels like it's this.
Wobbly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like when you were describing it, like a little wobble, teeter totter
Yeah.
back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is people are, I think, a lot, even in session, angels have been putting people, they've been showing me in imagery, people standing on a precipice and the angel standing next to them going, "What do you want to do?" And the person's like, and so this is big decision points we have to make inside of ourselves about what we really want our lives to be like, what we really want to do. And with that, we have to face the fear thing, right? We have to let go of, but we feel it in our hearts. We have to trust that that's the direction we're meant to go. And we have to take the leap with that faith in our heart space about, we have to go to the hell yes and trust it with everything for a while. And a lot of that's going to start to happen around March, April, May. We have Jupiter going into Cancer, which is great for a year. I'm really happy for Jupiter to be in Cancer. It's exalted there. It really loves to be in Cancer. So I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people really opening up to big yeses in their life, especially over the summertime in some regard and for a full year. So it's June to next June that people are going to start to experience some things if they're brave enough.
That feels yummy.
Oh yeah, be
Yeah.
brave. Be brave. Shake it up. I'm ready for things to shake up. Not gonna lie. I'm ready
I'm
to
ready to.
shake it up.
I'm curious, like, what is your challenge right now? Like, what are you working through spiritually, if
Um,
anything?
oh, that's I thought about that too this morning. It's really funny. Well, I can't go into too much detail about it, but gosh, when was that? It felt like it was May. I have to go back through my journals. I believe it was around May, June. I was tossing and turning one night, and the angels were literally on top of me, going, "What do you want to do with this? Are you going to do this or not?" And I remember tossing and turning all night long. I couldn't give them an answer. I didn't know. I wasn't sure. They're asking a lot of me. I woke up in the morning going, "Oh my God, I'm going to have to answer them at some point." And it wasn't until August I took a walk out back, and I don't even know what the heck I said yes to. But I said, "I'll do it.
Oh,
Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it."
I got chills again.
And since then, it's been weird. Since then, I've been led to a whole new bit of information I'm learning. I've been downloading all kinds of things. A lot of things have been opening for me. And within that comes the challenges that you asked me about, like what I'm dealing with, because it's brought up a lot of like ideas of resistance. It's blown apart some of my belief systems of how I thought, well, I thought it was like that. I'm like, nope, it's like this. Okay.
Mm.
It's been pushing me to own myself in a very different way. It's been pushing me to own my light in a very different way. It's been pushing me to own my path in a very different way. So yeah, fears come up, like, what does this mean? I'm already weird already. I live at Hogwarts most of the time. Like, you what? You want me to do what? And am I ever going to have a normal life? No. Okay. Like, so there's a lot of like, I will never fit in. I've never fit in. And this is even another layer of never fitting in. That's really hard, in some regard. I look normal,
So
but
cute. You're so
I,
cute.
I live in a very different reality, right? As
Mhm.
most of you guys understand that message, you're different. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you for sharing that. I think it's super
yeah.
helpful.
So I think I'm kind of where everyone is in some regard. We're all feeling that we need to start to evolve and mature inside of ourselves in different ways and own our lives in different ways. And all of us, I think, are feeling a knock at the door, that we've got to answer something, that we've got to fulfill something in our lives.
Yeah.
Everyone's calling me going, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, well, let's unpack that. Let's see what's happening. And it's a lot of timeline slipping. It's a lot of like kind of looking at things out ahead and giving people little things to focus on that will get them moving, little morsels. That's what the angels call it. I had a client recently. She's having me write the foreword of her book, and I've been seeing her for 12 years, maybe. And I remember in one of the sessions in the very beginning, the angel said, tell her she's going to write a book one day. And I said, okay. And of course, she had a million questions. Well, what book? What am I going to be doing? I'm not capable of writing a book. I said, you're just going to write a book. Just be quiet about it. It's all fine. Just know. And she wrote a book. And so it's really interesting to see it, but she was ready. And I watched her whole life go through these massive transitions over the years and her growing and evolving and stepping into her work in a very different way. And knowing that she was a very rare egg on the planet too, but she also had to unravel, and watching her unravel was a really fascinating process. So it's fun to have long-term clients to be able to watch them blossom. It's the coolest, most rewarding part of the work, honestly. When I can tune into somebody and go, damn, look at them now. From that first session I ever had with them to this point in time, they've done their work, they've listened to their angels, they've been diligent on their paths, and check them out. It's amazing. So I just want to let people know, if they've had, you just keep doing the work. I can see it in people. I love it.
And call Whitney.
It's helpful. Good. It kind of gives you like a fire under your butt in some regard.
Yeah. It has
So.
felt like a snow globe. Like you're in the middle of a snow globe. That's like the visual that I get right in the past few months. Just like we're just shaking it all up and it will settle at some point, but not now. It's not settled just yet.
Yeah, I love that analogy. That's a good one. And then you can look at the little parts of the snowflakes that are individual and unique, and you can catch one and take it with you and look at it for a while, see what it
Mhm.
wants of you, see what it's asking of you, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
One of our questions was, and I feel like you've kind of already done this, but if you were to like ask if the angels had any um takeaways for like the collective, like is there something we kind of talked about it before, but is there a message that feels they want to be shared, particularly through this Living Magic program that we're creating?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing just for me personally is what they've always showed me is right when 2020 happened, they showed me 2025 being the pivot point and then up until 2030. So we're just going through this phase in the collective realities that we are starting to, it has to do with balance. It does. It sounds so boring. Like wish I gave you this magic carpet ride of all the things, but it is truly about balance.
I love balance. I love it.
I mean, we're like right now on the scale, the karmic scale right now is so unbalanced that that's what's happening. There's also going to be some new innovations coming forward. There's going to be new healing techniques coming forward. There's going to be a lot of newness coming in. There's going to be a lot of awakening and people understanding energy in a very different format and function. So I'm excited for some of that. There's going to be a lot of things to be weary of still. We're going to have to really use our discernment on what we're trusting, what we're not. I'm just ready for the volume to go down a little bit in the collective. It's super loud out there. It's really annoying. And a lot of kids feel it. They're very disrupted by the collective energies right now because they're such
Mhm.
psychic sponges that they don't even know why they're so riled up. And
Mhm.
you're a mom, like, I've got the classical music going. We are chill in this house. And why is my kid freaking out? And so a lot of it has to do with that collective energy that they don't know how to filter quite yet. And so that's a big part of being a mom right now. I don't know if you're witnessing that, but I hear a lot of moms tired.
We're so
Every
tired.
every day, just every
We
day,
are so tired.
putting on our get out and get it hat. It's so
But I,
Yeah,
tired and
get it.
wilted.
but the other
Yeah.
part of it too that I do think the gift of having children to look at is they also say stuff where you're just like, oh, you get it so much better than so many of the adults around too. Like my son the other day, we were driving in the car and he goes, Mom, I just realized that life is like a video game. And I was like, yes, you got it. Like it is. Go through
Yeah.
it, defeat the bosses if you have them, go to the next level. And just this like, and it doesn't have to be taken so seriously. And you'll find the path, like all of that. It was just a really interesting reflection that he had.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for
I
you.
love that you just said that you said you don't have to take it so seriously.
Yeah.
Do you know how many times angels say that to me? I'm like, she could just stop taking this shit so seriously. They never
Well,
curse, but
yeah.
like seriously, it blocks people.
Yeah. Well, do we have any other questions, Kyler? Is that
I mean, I
I
have
think
a
we've
million
covered.
questions for you, but let's not overdo our time
Let's
here.
not take
Let's
it.
not. Okay. We should really our taglines that we like to play around with, which we forgot to say at the beginning, was lower your expectation, raise your vibration. Okay.
I
So we
love
just
that.
want
Don't take it too
Yeah.
seriously. That is
to
also our
you got
goal.
it.
We do sometimes share a little bit of magic that has shown up in our life just because we want to be grateful for it to invite more in.
Mm.
So if you have something, you're welcome to share it. No pressure at all. I can
And
go
we
first while everybody thinks. So this week, I was really actually one of the things I was going to be grateful for was that conversation with my son about the video game because that felt really like he got something in the world that he needed to get. But then the other piece that I have been super grateful for is I've been doing Wim Hof breathing all week long. I like can't stop now because it is bringing me to a place of groundedness and a place of neutrality that I was struggling to be in for a while. And so it's such a super simple 10-minute tool. I'll put it in the show notes, the link to the video that I use on YouTube. And if I start my day with it, I feel like I'm a better person throughout the day and I can be more open to the flow of everything.
Love that. Well, of course, my stuff's always really weird. Yeah, something weird happened. I was in meditation and I was seeing this thing that made I can't like sometimes I just can't disclose too much because it just sounds way too sci-fi. But I saw something in the meditation that was given to me, and all of a sudden I heard the door knock, like a literal door knock. And I look because I can look out my window and see my front door and see if and there's nobody out there. And I looked down, looked over because I have a big window, nothing. And I thought, well, maybe the UPS guy snuck in somehow and knocked and left a package. No package. But that knock on the door was like, they're ready for me. And so I thought that was super cool. It's like a sign that I got, like a literal, like, hi, we're ready, come in kind of thing. So that was cool. That's
Super
all.
cool.
That was the magic. That was pretty magical for me.
Oh, I love that. I wish I had something that could match that where I had some magical stuff. I've just been having crazy ass dreams, just these crazy dreams.
Do you write them down?
I'm way too tired to write them down.
Should write them down.
I know, and I wish I could remember what they were because some of them were good, some of them were nightmares. Anyway, I think my gratitude is my dreams because I really do love dreaming. I love going into that next little they're just so vivid for me. There's never a question was, do you see color? Remember, I don't know if you've ever heard that rumor that you only dream in black and white. So not true for me. I mean, I don't know if anybody does, but I
No,
don't.
I do
It's
color.
very vibrant colors,
Mhm.
lots of colors happening. So I'm really grateful that that is there. And I would like to work on that a little bit more in my spare time. I would like to dive a little deeper into whatever messages are coming through my dreams. Right now, they've been a little bit chaotic because my house is so chaotic. I'm just trying to get it doesn't need to repeat in my dreams. I'm like, got it. I know, clear the energy. So I took down a shelf with all these many frames on it, and that felt cleaner. It's just like one little things at a time. I guess I'm grateful that I'm given the space to sort of, okay, go through this now. Okay, go through this now.
Well, thank you so much, Whitney. We really appreciate you being here. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you. And
Oh,
I think that what you've shared is going to be so helpful to so many people, as it always is.
I hope so. I could have talked to you guys for another 2 hours. It was a really enjoyable time. Thank you so
Don't
much
tempt
for,
us.
yeah, right. Thanks for having me. Come on. I love the thought. Appreciate it.